Hello. Hello, John.
Hello. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Well, here we are once again, Joyce. Wow. What a day we have outside today.
It really is a gorgeous day.
It doesn't make any difference what the weather is. We woke up today. It's a good day. So.
Yes, it is. So
hello, universe. Thank you.
Right. Right. I say that a lot. You know, when I said that today, I had to make a phone call. If anyone's made a phone call, like whether it's a utility company or
is it a phone call or is it a phone call?
This one was, well, originally it was a phone
call.
Oh,
no. Okay.
Where it was actually on my mind since last night. And then I had to remind myself, okay, you're going to change this around. And then I just said a prayer. And I asked God to just make this go easy. Like your prayer.
The anointment of ease. The anointment of ease.
The anointment of ease. Yes. And I must say, it was one of the best phone calls I ever had.
Oh, what way?
The woman was delightful.
Yeah?
She was delightful. She lived in Texas, and she just started talking to me, and I'll fix this for you. Oh. And what happened towards the end, though, was my fault. A call came in, and I thought I got rid of that call, but I got rid of her call. And it's like, no. And then I had to let go again and say, no, I trust it's all taken care of. Yep. She was at the end of it anyway. So, yeah. You know, I remember my mom always saying that even the priest has to read the Bible every day. So it's just you and I, you know, things happen.
They do.
Right.
No matter who you are. And the thing is, you're talking about that call, too. Sometimes you kind of dread it. It's like a book that I read once called Eat the Bullfrog.
Ooh, that's an interesting title.
And I mean, it's literally, it's like, ugh. But that's do something in the morning that you least want to do during that day. Get it done in the morning. Yeah. And then the rest of your day goes a little bit easier. So just find that task.
You're right.
It's something you're dreading doing. Take care of it first thing in the morning after you have a cup of coffee. Because coffee changes everything. You can wake up groggy and miserable, but the minute you have that cup of coffee, bam, you feel good.
Right.
Take a deep breath, say a prayer like you did, and make that phone call. And 95% of the time, it's not as difficult as we think. You get that wonderful customer service like that one woman from Texas you talked to. You can turn things around.
I never thought of it that way, that to get it out in the morning. It reminds me when I was a kid, I would eat the worst thing on my plate first.
It's kind of like eating the bullfrog, you know, right?
Yeah, you just reminded me of that because I wanted to savor that goods. I wanted that to linger within me.
Like when I was a kid, I didn't like vegetables. You know, we all know vegetables are good for us, but I just didn't like them. Meat and potatoes. That's
You're still meat and potatoes.
Well, the thing is right now, meat, you know. But the thing is I do love vegetables and fruit. I'm just on a little bit of a different plan at the moment. But I would eat something I didn't like first because Mom and Dad would make me eat it. They would always say, oh, they're you know, children starving over in Ethiopia or whatever. They would use that argument.
Yeah.
I said, I got to eat this. I feel bad for those kids, you know.
Right.
Or send them over to the kids in Ethiopia. Let them have this. I don't want it.
Right. No, I know. It reminds me of my brother. When I had a big, elaborate Easter plan. And he thought I said it was at 12 o'clock, but it was at 2 o'clock. So he came in really hungry. And he was complaining a little bit. Yeah. And I said, you know, in other countries, they know what real hunger is. You're not experiencing real hunger. And he said to me, I don't live in another country. And I planned my breakfast at a certain time so my stomach would be empty in 5 hours.
He wasn't going for that argument, right? That went right over his head.
Yeah,
I'll
never forget that.
Wow.
But in the morning, the one thing that I don't want to do to eat that bullfrog is watch the news.
Totally agree.
Except for local news to get the weather. Right. I love our local news. Right. You know, just a little sprinkling of that.
It's light. But you're right. The first thing in the morning, like we talked about in the past many times, you know, on and off air, you and I, we want our day to begin with intentionality. So we want to take control of our day the best way we can by, you know, prayerful work, gratitude, you know, and just focus on that. Then a little bit later on, you could take a look at the news just to be aware. We don't want to be ostriches with our heads in the sand. We
No,
want
I
to be
do.
aware so we can pray about the world too.
True. I pray about the world no matter what, and I'm going to stick my head in the sand because there are things that are totally out of my control.
Right.
And I see enough of it on Facebook because or Instagram, things will pop up. And but the more you do what we call our prayerful work, which whatever that is for you, it could be people talking just to the universe.
Sure.
Just putting it out there, and you do get answers. You really do. So when we're sending stuff out or prayers out, don't just pick up the same old anger, right?
Right.
You have to really look and listen, because you will get answers. People do show up. Or there could be something really great to read instead of getting angry and continue that angry conversation about things you really don't have any control about.
No, and that's really good, Joyce, to do that. The thing is, we are getting signs all the time. We just have to be aware. Get your antenna up.
Right.
I'm always thinking about that because, being in the radio biz, I'm always thinking about frequency. Being on the River 105.9 or Country 92.5, the stations I'm around. If it's at 92.3 or 105.7, you're not honing in on the frequency. But once it gets to 105.9, and you have to be intentional about it. Go find, all of a sudden things clear up and you're able to get that great signal. Same thing as we go out there intentionally with our antenna up, looking for signs. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
It could be just looking out, seeing a beautiful sunset or sunrise.
Yeah.
That could be a message. Or somebody says something to you at the coffee shop, or the grocery store, at the gas station. That could be a sign.
Right.
They're everywhere. We just have to be looking for them. And too many times we look, but we don't see. Or we're listening, but we're really not hearing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, we're not saying we're perfect at that. We're far from it. We're all imperfect, creatures. But we're just doing the best we can each and every day.
But the one thing we do have control over, and we'll say this over and over again because I think you can't hear it enough. I can't hear it enough. You have control over your thoughts.
Yes.
You have control over your words.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start on that path of really seeing that, it does make a big difference in your life. And when people say negative things, it hits hard right away.
Like the Bryan Adams song, cuts like a knife.
It does.
And words can really either bring people up or they could just slam you down.
Yeah.
And I've learned to practice the pause a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a tendency sometimes, if I'm recording a radio show or something, being totally transparent here, and all of a sudden I get to the end of the voice track and I screw up, which I do all the time. And I slip over my tongue. I have a tendency sometimes to say a word which I don't want to repeat here. And a lot of us in the radio biz can relate to that. It's like, and so I'm trying to work on being more intentional with what I say and how I respond. And it's not always easy.
Right.
I know some people are laughing right now too. You stub your toe, you say something. If you say "oh foo," it doesn't have the same kind of feel.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
it
foo.
Doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't seem to come out naturally when you stub your toe, right?
Yeah, but we're trying to work on that, Wow.
But you're really, so right on that vibration, that like that radio station, when people say, I want to listen to country, but why is this rock station on? Because you turn to that frequency.
That's right.
So we have the power to change that frequency. So, and even speaking about prayers, when you scream at the universe, God, whatever you call it, and say, I need money, it's really screaming like a boomerang and gives you like more of that lack.
Yes.
Instead of saying, I would love to have this in my life because this is what I would do with it. Right. Thank you so much for hearing me. But don't go on complaining that your next words out of your mouth is, how am I going to pay that bill? How am I going to do that? Just say, it'll show up. I know it will. A
pastor said that to me once, Joyce, before, that when you start complaining, God cares about us, so the universe, whatever you want to say. But, if you're going to complain all the time, I think that's where he kind of crosses his arms.
Yes.
And it's just, okay, you done yet? So the whole key is to follow that up. And I'll say, like, I talk to God like he's my friend. Father, something here is bothering me, this and that. But nevertheless, I trust you. And I always
Yes.
follow up with that, nevertheless.
But nevertheless, I
But
like
nevertheless,
that.
I
I'm
trust
gonna
you.
use that.
I don't have to figure this all out. All I have to do is believe.
Right.
I'm going to do my best today. You take care of the rest. It takes the pressure off, Joyce.
So it's like when someone gives you a gift, God gives you what you ask for, you could kind of see it, but you don't take it because you don't see it as a gift, and it's given again and again and again, and you're right. Then it is like, I'm going to stop doing that. And it does remind me of my Uncle Art.
Uncle Art.
So this is what happened. Uncle Art was diagnosed with diabetes. And my mother was quite the baker. And he really, really missed
And you're quite the baker, too.
I do love baking.
Yes. Right.
So my mom being the baker, I remember her saying she's going to find a way to make him that apple pie that he likes.
Ugh.
Now, this is back in the day where there weren't a lot of recipes about that, sugarless anything.
Right.
But she found a way to make this apple pie was his favorite. So she makes this apple pie and she brings it over and she never hears back from him about it. So my mom starts thinking, oh God, it must have been a disaster. And I think she made something else and left it with my aunt.
Yeah.
And nothing came back. So she stopped making it. Now, he died fairly young, and on his deathbed, he said to my mom, I will never forget that apple pie. It was the best I ever had.
Wow.
And she came home devastated, thinking, had he said that, I would have made it every week for them.
Right.
So
I guess since I'm saying how much I love your baked goods and Patty does, we're going to get them every single week from now on.
maybe.
And
I do remember Patty liked a banana one that I made.
right.
The problem
She
with
liked them all.
But sometimes I just make things up and then I don't know how to recreate them.
It's all impromptu.
Yeah.
Improvisation.
But it's all done with love.
With love, exactly.
Yeah. At one time I was selling, my butter crunch. And when it became a business and then it was
Not the same.
tough.
It's
It
not
was
the
tough.
same.
And I kept that going on and off for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Then I made the decision that I'm only going to make this for people I like.
Right.
And that's it. I have joy making it now.
Yes.
Where
You
I
have
didn't
Joyce
joy-
making it.
I have, yes. So to do things with different intentions.
Right.
Yeah. What was I thinking of? I think we might have brought that up even last time, that when you see someone who's homeless or someone that needs something and you do that second guess, like, oh, they're probably going to use it for drugs,
Right.
alcohol. But if your intention is good, that's when we're blessed and they're blessed in some way.
And we do have a tendency to get judgmental if you see the same person at the same area all the time. Like when we get out of church on Sunday, we see that same person at the bottom of the hill every single week.
Oh, yes.
And I don't want to be judgmental because a lot of people say, oh, I saw this guy in a different corner another
Yes.
day and saw this person here.
Yes.
Why don't they get a job? There are jobs available for everyone.
Yes.
And I don't want to go down that route.
Yeah.
I don't want to be judgmental like that because I don't know his story. Whether it's true or not, that's not up to me to decide. But if I feel like giving to him, I'm going to give to him and not feel guilty about it. What he does with the money is not on me.
Right.
We don't own the money anyway.
Right.
It's on loan.
Yeah.
We don't own anything. We're all stewards. So that's the way I look at it from a spiritual perspective.
That's really true. I saw a homeless man. He had a sign, and it was a sign that I never saw before. Maybe you have, but his sign said, I hate being in this position. I hate begging, but this is what I'm brought to at this time and need help. And I didn't have any money on me. I drove by and it was on my
Yes.
mind. So I went to Dunkin' Donuts where I had my credit card and I bought, a couple of, sandwiches, donuts, and
That's great.
orange juice. And I drove back and I handed it to him, and he kept saying, "God bless you, God bless you." Now, it was on a corner where I was going to turn the corner. There was zero traffic. It was a very quiet day. And as soon as I gave it to him and I pulled away, I looked in my rearview mirror, and I promise you, he was gone.
Wow.
I didn't even give him enough time to cross a street or to go anywhere. And I thought, okay, he's not here. And I had that feeling. So I do get that feeling with people that, from the Bible. It's one of my favorite stories. You probably know exactly where it is. I don't. But I think when the Pharisees were saying, like, when have we ever, talking to Jesus,
Right.
when have we ever seen you hungry or homeless or in prison or sick? And he said, when you don't do it to the least of these, you're not doing it to me.
That's right.
And I had that feeling come over me when that happened. And
you think about that, Joyce. I think about that as I get older a little bit more, about once we go to the pearly gates someday. And one thing we all have in common, we'll never get out of this world alive, any of us. And when you're face to face with Jesus, remember that person you passed by on the street corner? That was me.
yeah. Yeah. Right.
But even if I don't have
Right.
money like you, there's a gentleman I see at the radio, right by the radio station when I go up to Hartford at the end of the ramp. And if I stop, it's not like one of these things where I'm going to stop or try to go in the other lane or put my head down like I'm busy, so I have to avoid him. I'll still roll down the window and ask him, "What's your name?" And that personalizes it.
It does.
And then if I have time, I'll say, "Tell me your story.
Right.
What happened?"
Yeah.
And it's like they look right at you like, "Wow, you're looking at me." And look them in the eye, because they're still a human being. Just for that short time you're there anyway.
Right.
At least show them respect. You don't know their story. That
You're
could be
so
you.
good at that.
I mean, every single person
Yeah.
we know, well, not every person, but a lot of people are only 2 or 3 or 4 paychecks away from losing their home. There's a lot of people that way. So if we're going to be
Yeah.
on our high horse
Yeah.
all the time, I don't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't have anything to do with not working hard enough or whatever. Things befall people, and prices go up, and taxes and all
Sure.
that. So, I've been in that position. I've lost a home, and you find out who your friends are.
I was
at that
in
time.
danger of that too a couple of
Yeah.
times. I was in danger earlier in my life of bankruptcy. I was in danger of losing my home. I was in danger. I had my car, I towed away in the past. I mean, this is real, folks. This is real. This is real
Yeah.
life here.
Yeah, we've lived through a lot of this. We know,
Yeah.
we're not just sitting here on golden eggs.
No, not
Yeah.
not at all. And the thing is, when
Right.
we said we were going to do this podcast, what's good that we're going to be transparent.
Yeah.
And we are far from perfect people. We're not here to preach to anybody, but we're just here to say, hey, listen, we know how you feel in many ways.
We know how you feel, and we really do have inner peace, but it's something that we work at.
Yeah.
It's not something that we take for granted, and we want that for all of you, and that's why we're doing the show, to say that we've been through a lot of stuff, and we're still standing, and we're standing with a smile on our face, and we're thankful every morning that we could see, that we can get out of bed, that whatever it is, right?
That's right. I mean, yesterday morning, for instance, over the past 3 weeks, I was at a doctor appointment, and I came out and there was a flat tire. And on this particular car with the all-wheel drive, you have to replace all 4 tires. You can't replace just one, Joyce.
Yes.
So there was a big giant bill. And then a week later, Patty went to an appointment. She came out with a flat tire. Same thing. 2 weeks. And then yesterday, we had someone come over to take a look at our water system, yearly, checkup.
Yeah.
And said, okay, your tank is rotting, $1,600. And then for the service and everything else, $2,100.
Yeah.
But we took a deep breath, Patty and I said, God will provide.
Yes.
God will provide. This could be
Yes.
a warning. I mean, and then I said, babe, this is an investment in our house anyway. Investment in our cars. She always says, you always look at the positive side. Yeah, well, basically, it's like our cars have brand new tires.
Right.
We're set for a while. We got the new tank. We're going to have to get it anyway. We don't have to worry about, the water being of bad quality. We don't have to worry about the pressure going down. You're in the middle of the shower, and all of a sudden it goes down. You're washing your hair, and you got to
Yes.
wait, 2 minutes for the rinse off. We don't have to
Right.
worry about that anymore. So I'm
Right.
always trying to catch the positive, but we all
Yeah.
have those things, right? that happen to us all the time, and it's how do we respond to it?
I know. I've learned to say, because a lot of those things have happened to me lately, especially with the accident. I didn't have a car.
Right.
And, but I am able to say, especially if something happens with my house, I need a new roof, which I will. And I got this from you. Like, I get to have a new roof.
Yes.
These are rich people problems because we have a house. So if something goes wrong with the house, it's like, wow, I have a house.
Right.
I have a house that, yes, I still have a mortgage on it, but this is my home. So if something needs to be fixed, I ask for the right people to show up and, and to help. And that does happen. I was sitting and talking about, this show is kind of about like the universe and calling out. And sometimes things happen like super fast with me to the point where I did write it in my book because I thought people won't even believe this, but it's the truth. And I went to the dentist. I had a problem. I'm sitting in the parking lot and while I'm in the parking lot, our mutual person we know, Randy, I'll say his name because I love him, Randy MacArthur.
Oh, he worked at the Oakdale Theater, right?
Yes, he was the manager of Oakdale Theater and a very, very spiritual, spiritual man. And it happened to be kind of just before Easter, and he called checking on me. And when we hung up, because I was still too early to go in, I said, you know what, God? I really, because I was raised in the Catholic Church, not really raised by my parents. They kind of just sent me to Catholic school, but I loved the stained glass, and I loved the ritual.
Oh, me
of
too.
it.
Me too.
And so I just sat there and I said, I would just love to connect with a priest and talk to him, and just get back into that. That would be a great thing. And then guess what happens? While I'm still in the car, a woman I know who does marketing, she said, hey, Joyce, I just wanted to connect with you. It was Renee. And she said, I'm sitting here with Father Ed.
Oh. The Father Ed?
The Father Ed.
Whoa.
And he's looking for some help with marketing. And I said, okay. I'm giving my number. So he called me the next day and we had lunch, and it was quite remarkable because he sat in the booth and he looked at me like John Seville would look at you. And he didn't ask me what normal people asked me about marketing. So here's what I got going on. What could you do for me? He looked at me and he said, tell me about Joyce.
Wow.
And when he said that, I like welled up.
How many people do that?
No, they don't.
Right? I mean, how many people say, well, how was your day? People are so...
And wait for the answer.
Right.
Yes.
People too busy talking about their favorite subject, which
Yes.
is themselves. And we're all guilty of that at times, but
Yeah.
when you ask somebody about them and their day like Father Ed...
Right.
Who we're going to get as a guest eventually, by the way.
We are going to get as a guest. He just turned
Love this guy.
93. He is sharp.
Give his
as
full name
anything.
there, Joyce.
Father Ed Nadolny.
Yeah. He's got like a gazillion, followers on TikTok?
He has over 2 million.
2 million.
Yeah,
2 million.
some of his hits I know got like 600,000.
He's an amazing guy.
Or
He really
something.
is. Yep.
But he walks the talk.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're having this breakfast together, his phone kept ringing. And I know he puts billboards up throughout Connecticut, and it has a phone number on it. And I said, wait a minute, is that phone number on there your cell? He said, yes. I said, how? I said, how are you dealing with all of this? He says, no, I do. I eventually get back to everybody. I said, what do they ask you for? He said, they usually ask for prayer, they ask for forgiveness, or they tell me to go to hell.
Oh, so really, some people say that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
but he's
But he's
fine
so
with
real.
that. He's so real.
So real.
He's so real. Yeah, when he calls me, he always tells me he loves me.
Yeah.
He says, "So, am I ever going to see you before the second coming of Jesus?" I said, "Yes, because you're going to be on our podcast."
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. We need more and more people like him. But to put his cell phone number on there too. And I learned that like in business with my businesses too, my DJ business, I will put my cell phone out there on all my cards, but also on my radio commercials. And when we did a billboard, I did the same thing because I want them to know that they're talking to the owner of the business. So
Yes.
we live in a world where customer service is kind of lacking.
Right.
From what I hear, but when you talk directly to the owner, it's old school. And I want them to talk to me knowing that it's not just, my DJ that I'm sending out to the event or me. You have access to the entire company. We're all here to help you, but especially the owner of the business. And I think that's cool that Father Ed does that.
Right.
Just like, wow, you really care enough to put that. Yeah. And we're going to get back to you right away.
Yeah, definitely.
At least within 24 hours anyway. I mean, people just need to know they matter.
Yes.
We live in a very, very cold world, and people just think, God, nah, nobody cares anymore.
We're more
blah, blah.
separated now because of social media too.
Right.
So we're just talking online, or we're talking in text.
And how many people, a lot of people talk at you, but not to you.
Right. Right. So just what you were saying, when you get the boss, when you ask for something to God, to the universe, and you put it out there, you're speaking to the boss.
That's right. Exactly.
Yes.
Because again, like we were saying before, we don't own anything. We're stewards here.
Yes.
We have complete access to the boss. And that's a beautiful thing. No matter where we are,
Mm.
we have access. So,
Right.
So the whole key, Joyce, is just to go out there and just, always look for good.
Yes.
Always look for the good out there because it's easy to go down that negative, the rabbit hole. But, be a little bit more intentional. And I know this is advice to myself too.
Mm.
Look for the good.
Yes.
It's like a song by Jason Mraz. Look it up. It's called Look for the Good.
Oh, I love him.
It's a great song. Very, very positive. It's got kind of a reggae feel to it, but Look for the Good by Jason Mraz, M-R-A-Z. It's a must.
And every day, look for what's good in your life, because there's always something good. And what's good for me is I love when you say a little prayer, because when you send that to me, it really impacts my day.
Amen. Until next time, we wish you and your family nothing but the best. Again, search for what's good and share our podcast with other people. It's on all the streaming platforms. And until next time, bless you and your family.
Bye for now.
Bye.